How did you hear that information, or are you 100% sure that actually happened?
Yeah, he made that confession during one interview, and as in most black males who have been sexually abused, when they talk about it, he talks about it triumphantly. He talked about it as it was a victory, but I talk about it in the book how it wasn't anything triumphant about that. He was an 11-year-old boy. His manager, Brian Baby Williams, in the midst of either a house party or a home setting, commanded a woman or a young teenage girl to perform oral sex on him in the presence of others. And that was, I mean, think about it being an 11-year-old child. And that had, I definitely believe, as a counselor, as a Christian, as just a human, I know that has had an effect on him. And I talk about that in the book, how much of his misogyny can be rooted and traced back to that event. And I talk about, Lil Wayne as a person. I know he's an artist, but he's also a person. And I want the best for him. I desire him to know the Lord Jesus Christ, to experience forgiveness. That's my hope. And I'm concerned, for him, because I believe that if he doesn't deal with some of these issues or allow God to deal with some of these issues, he's dealt with drug addiction in the past. Right now, he's not able to, use his favorite drug, which is the cough syrup. But when his career starts to wane, I think it's going to be a temptation for him to try to go back into that past period of drug abuse to gain his career. And I believe that his life is really at danger if he doesn't, get some help and get right with God. I talk about that in the book. And so, my hope is that the book can be a warning, obviously, to youth, to equip youth leaders to be able to deal with this philosophy. And my hope, too, is that somehow, some way, he might be able to read this and, get right with God before his life is cut short.
Well, let me ask you this question. You may have the answer, you may not have the answer, but I still want to throw it out there just in case. But personally, I can say that I've always been a Lil Wayne fan growing up. He was in my top list of rappers, probably my top 3. Mm-hmm. I think it's undeniable that he has talent, that he's a great rapper. He puts words together very, very good. But his music has changed over time. I can say that I was a Lil Wayne fan in the beginning because he didn't curse in his music. He made good music and he didn't curse in it. And I think that was because of his mother. He didn't want to disrespect his mother, like by cussing in the music. I think the first song he cursed in, he said, "I don't curse in this verse, but man, F the world. I lost my father to the gun and had a little girl." It was something of that degree. He was putting out a lot of emotion. But what I'm getting to is, since you looked at his career from even before he started doing music, you said that, from when he was born to now, to current, is there anything that you've identified through your research that you can say, this is where Lil Wayne made his change? Was it him being molested? Was it alcohol? Was it something that you noticed?
Well, that's a good question. And the earliest record that I studied of Lil Wayne was when he came out with the album with DG, and it was called True Stories. And I think that was probably he was about 13 years old, 13, 14, and that had a lot of vulgarities in that at that time. So I'm not sure about the time when he didn't curse, because again, that was about the age of 14. But I know that he did have a rise to fame. There's like a pre superstar Lil Wayne, and now the Lil Wayne that we do know. And the superstar Lil Wayne, I guess you could say, started really around the time of the Carter. I guess you could say the first Carter. And some of the things I suggest in the book, around the time of 2004, CMR, they were almost at the possibility of going bankrupt. They were facing lawsuits. They were facing financial difficulties. Juvenile had left. BG had left. Turk had left. And basically, they weren't making music for a good period of time. And the question was during that time, okay, what was Lil Wayne going to do? Now, most artists, when their label is reorganizing, they kind of take time off. They focus on family, friends, or they may do a little bit of promotion. But Wayne, since the age of 11, he never had stopped making music. He always had been trying to get out there, He always had been persistent. And one thing I suggest in the book is that because he hasn't dealt with some of these inner emotional issues, one example or one evidence of someone who hasn't dealt with inner issues is restlessness. He's restless. And so he's trying to promote, he's trying to do all this stuff. And during that time of CMR's reorganization, he put out about 4 or 5 mixtapes, just nonstop. So it was like he was finding his therapy for his sexual abuse, for that self-shooting, for not having his father in his life. At the age of 16, he had a child. He wasn't able to see the child after the child was born. So he was trying to deal with all of these things and finding his therapy in music and putting out all of this material for free, and that just kind of gained him notoriety that many rappers at that time didn't have. He also began at that time to become addicted to syrup. That's something that we also had to know. He confessed this as well. He became addicted to the drugs, and that greatly influenced his music. If you listen to pre-Superstar Wayne, they call him Weebly Wobbly. If you listen to that Little Wayne, the way he delivered his music is completely different than what you have now. And part influence of that is his drugs. Obviously, drugs impair you. They influence you. There's also a spiritual aspect to drugs, and drugs rose him to fame. His manager, Cortez Bryant, in the documentary The Carter, says, "I don't know why all these superstar guys have to be addicted to some drug." Drugs are partly the rise of Little Wayne's superstardom, and so we see this difference in him now that he was under the influence of drugs. And so, I think those factors, restlessness, not dealing with the sexual abuse, not having a father in his life, CMR not being in full cooperation, and also his drug addiction, those things really shot him up. The combination, and people look at it and they say, "Hey, he's a great artist, and he's now a superstar." But you look at some of the recipe that caused that to happen. I don't think any of us would want those things in our life. And so I believe, again, that if Little Wayne doesn't deal with these issues, I believe that there's going to be some great detriment in his life that possibly can lead to an early death.
I guess, do you have any input about, the Birdman situation? I know those pictures that came out a long time ago. We know that he's not his real father, but there was pictures of Little Wayne kissing Birdman, even on television.
Yeah.
He said that, he's like, "That's my pa. I kiss him. That's my pa." But we all know that's not his biological father. Do you think that has anything to do with his current situation? Do you think Birdman has any influence over Little Wayne?
Yeah. Well, I was asked again in another interview, one of the ladies said, they have a running joke I shouldn't say a running joke, but they wonder about Little Wayne's sexuality. I don't mention that in the book. I don't have any evidence to say, and I wouldn't seek to spread anything like that if it's not true. I don't have any evidence that, there's homosexuality going on. But again, going back to that incident, when he was 11 years old, and it was Brian Baby Williams who commanded that woman to do that act. He basically commanded abuse upon a child. You can suspect that there are some things going on that aren't quite right. I mean, it's to have either your father or your mentor, give you your first sexual experience at the age of 11. But that's not a healthy thing. I'm sure that he loves him. I'm sure that Brian Baby Williams has a love for him and great respect for him. But it doesn't seem to be a completely healthy relationship. So that's probably the extent of what I could say on that.
Okay, well, I definitely appreciate this interview. I know I told you I would be respectful of your time. I appreciate this information. Can you just please give your information or give the website where people can go purchase this book or find out more about you?
Sure. The name of the website is deadestrapperalive.com. You can check it out there. The book is available in e-copy for $5.99 or in paperback, and the proceeds, it goes to our church ministry. It really would help out our church ministry as we do youth outreach. And I hope that the book can serve youth to be able to see some of the things that not only have influenced him, but some of the things that might be influencing them. The goal of the book is also for whether you're a pastor, a youth leader, or a teacher, or have any contact with youth, to be able to see some of the hidden dangers that might be in their life by following this philosophy. And again, finally, if you're a hip-hop fan, if you enjoy hip-hop music, whether secular or Christian, This book is kind of an exhaustive, I shouldn't say completely exhaustive, but a real detailed look at the goal of hip-hop and where hip-hop is going. And finally, in the book, I make a prediction, a strong prediction, and I call it a prophecy. And I believe that, 2012, that God is going to get the attention of mainstream hip-hop in America. He has blessed us with this genre of music, like Lavoisier say, the rap terrorist. God gave us hip-hop. Look at what we did with it. I believe that God gave us hip-hop as a means to communicate with one another, a means of expression and a means of experience, but yet what we have done with it is that we have turned it against Him. And now we're beginning to see artists not just talk about drugs and raping and things like that. We're beginning to see artists who are blaspheming the name of Jesus Christ boldly in their music. And I believe that God is going to visit that Himself. And for a long time, I thought to myself, well, why would God care about hip-hop? It's just a genre of music. But because hip-hop deals with His people, with young people, He's concerned about, what influences His people. So I make a prediction, a prophecy in the book that God is going to visit hip-hop and visit some artists in 2012. And I stand by that, and I stand by the book. So again, deadestrapperlive.com. You can contact me through the website. I'll be glad to talk or discuss the book anymore.
And you just brought up something else, too, when you actually made that final statement. But do you have any thoughts on the Illuminati? The Illuminati talk was real big. Of course, we heard it a long time ago, but recently, last year in 2011, it was big. That's all you were hearing about was the Illuminati, Jay-Z and Kanye West and Rick Ross. And you talk about these rappers blaspheming the Lord's name. Like, do you have any thoughts on the Illuminati?
There's no such thing biblically as the Illuminati, and I'll say that, number one, it's kind of based on study. I do have a bachelor's in biblical studies. I'm almost finished with a master's in divinity. So biblically, there's no such thing as an Illuminati. Yet, there are demonic spirits that always have and always will seek to lead men away from Christ. And I tell you this, Satan can cause unbelievers to focus so much on the Illuminati and not focus on their need for Christ. He's already won. He's already won. Satan's goal is distraction. And so what you have with the Illuminati, people are referring to some, one world system, one world government, or some secret society that holds all this power. But what unbelievers are subconsciously trying to do with that, they're trying to say, well, if I know about it, then I won't be taken in by it. I'll be saved if I know about it and avoid it. And in actuality, the only way the person can be saved from deception, from death, from destruction is how? By faith in Jesus Christ. And so unbelievers have been using that as a scapegoat. And believers, we kind of have been getting caught up in it as well, because, again, there are spirits at work, but there's no such thing biblically as the Illuminati. We need to point people to Jesus Christ. We need to say that truth comes from Christ. If you want to be enlightened, Jesus is the light of the world, we have to keep pointing people to Him that they may see the truth and be saved.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people put way too much into that Illuminati, and it's like one of those things, like you said, like it's a secret society. It's a mystery. So it's something that keeps coming up because nobody really knows anything about it. People don't know if these people are really in it or what, if it's just a cult. So that's what keeps it still bubbling because people don't really know anything about it. But like you said, to have faith in Jesus Christ, that's all we need to do at the end of the day. Know the truth. Know Jesus, know the truth, and that's all that you need. Well, again, I want to just say thank you